In the distant future, humanity had spread its wings far beyond Earth. Humans lived on planets and space stations scattered across many star systems. They were no longer just explorers or dreamers. They had become miners, builders, and traders. But with expansion came trouble. The aliens who shared the galaxy did not always welcome humans with open arms. For years, tensions simmered between species. Accusations of greed and disrespect flew back and forth. It was only a matter of time before something broke the fragile peace. On a cold, metallic orbital platform called Aurora 7, Daniel Carter worked as an engineer. He wasn't a soldier or a politician, just a regular man trying to make a living. Aurora 7 floated near a border region shared by humans and the insect-like Krillix. The Krillix were tall, armored beings with sharp limbs and glowing eyes. To most humans, they seemed strange and intimidating, but Daniel didn't think much about them. His job was to fix machines, not worry about politics. One day, a group of Krillix diplomats arrived at Aurora 7. Their mission was simple: inspect the mining operations to ensure humans weren't breaking agreements. Rumors had spread that human companies were taking more resources than allowed from Krillix territory. If true, it would mean war. Daniel noticed the tension in the air as the Krillix moved through the station. Everyone was on edge. The inspection began smoothly enough. The Krillix examined equipment, reviewed data logs, and asked questions. Daniel watched from a distance, focusing on his work. But then, disaster struck. A piece of heavy machinery malfunctioned. It was old and poorly maintained, a problem Daniel had reported weeks ago, but never fixed. Before anyone could react, the machine collapsed, crushing several Krillix beneath its weight. Panic swept through the station. Screams echoed in the corridors as workers tried to help the injured aliens. Daniel rushed to the scene, his heart pounding. He saw the crushed bodies of the Krillix, their green blood pooling on the floor. Some were still alive, writhing in pain, while others lay motionless. No one knew how to save them. The surviving Krillix shouted in their clicking language, their voices filled with fury. News of the accident traveled fast. Within hours, every alien species in the galaxy heard about it. To the Krillix, this wasn't an accident, it was an attack. They demanded justice, accusing humanity of deliberate sabotage. Back on Earth, people argued over what really happened. Was it negligence, or was someone trying to provoke a fight? Emily Dawson, a young journalist based in New York, followed the story closely. She had a nose for uncovering secrets and decided to dig deeper. Her research led her to leaked documents showing that the company running Aurora 7 had ignored safety warnings to cut costs. Worse, she found evidence suggesting similar incidents had occurred elsewhere but were covered up. Emily realized this wasn't just about one broken machine. It was about a pattern of exploitation. As accusations flew and tempers flared, Daniel felt trapped in a nightmare. He hadn't caused the accident, but he couldn't shake the feeling of guilt. The faces of the dying Krillix haunted him. What started as a routine day at work had turned into a spark that might ignite a galactic firestorm. And deep down, Daniel feared humanity's patience was about to run out, not just with the aliens, but with itself. Far away, leaders debated whether to apologize or prepare for war. Meanwhile, ordinary people like Daniel and Emily wondered if peace was even possible anymore. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The accident on Aurora 7 sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Krillix, already distrustful of humans, saw the collapse of the mining equipment as an act of aggression. Their leaders gathered in their towering hive cities, buzzing with anger. Within days, they declared war on humanity. Other alien species watched closely, some siding with the Krillix, others staying silent. The fragile peace that had held the galaxy together was crumbling. Back on Earth, people reacted in different ways. Some were scared, fearing what the powerful Krillix fleet might do. Others were angry, blaming the aliens for overreacting. Emily Dawson worked tirelessly to uncover the truth. Her articles revealed how corporations had ignored safety rules to save money. She argued that the accident wasn't just negligence, it was part of a bigger problem. Her words struck a nerve. Protests erupted in cities around the world, with crowds demanding answers from their leaders. Daniel Carter, now back on Earth after being evacuated from Aurora 7, struggled to cope. He couldn't stop thinking about the Krillix who had died. Their glowing eyes haunted his dreams. He tried to tell himself it wasn't his fault, but the guilt clung to him like a shadow. One evening, he visited his older brother, Alex, who lived nearby. Alex was a pilot in the United Earth Defense Force, UEDF, and their reunion was bittersweet. "You okay?" Alex asked, noticing the dark circles under Daniel's eyes. "I don't know," Daniel admitted. "I keep seeing it in my head. Those Krillix, they didn't deserve that." Alex sighed and leaned back in his chair. "It's not your fault, Danny. You're not the one who cut corners, but this is bigger than you or me now. Things are going to get ugly." As if to prove Alex right, reports came in of alien attacks on human colonies near the Krillix border. Ships burned in space, and families fled their homes. The UEDF scrambled to defend the colonies, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. General Laura Hayes, a tough and determined leader, gave speeches calling for unity. "We will not back down," she said. "If they want a fight, we'll give them one." But not everyone agreed with her approach. Ryan Mitchell, a politician known for his calm demeanor, urged caution. "War isn't the answer," he told a crowd during a televised debate. "We need to talk, to explain what happened. If we strike first, we'll lose any chance at peace." His words sparked heated arguments. Some called him a coward. Others praised him for his wisdom. Meanwhile, Emily continued her investigation. She discovered messages exchanged between corporate executives discussing ways to shift blame onto the Krillix. It seemed clear that someone wanted this conflict to happen. But why? And who stood to gain? Tensions rose even higher when a diplomatic summit aboard the neutral space station *Elysium* ended in disaster. Leaders from multiple species had gathered to discuss the crisis, hoping to find a solution. But halfway through the meeting, explosions tore through the station. Dozens of delegates died, including key figures from both human and alien sides. No group claimed responsibility, but the Krillix immediately accused humanity. "This proves it," one Krillix ambassador hissed during an emergency broadcast. "Humans cannot be trusted. They must be stopped before they destroy us all." Earth's government denied involvement, but few believed them. Alien species began uniting against humanity, forming alliances that made the situation even more dangerous. General Hayes pushed for a counterattack, arguing that waiting would only make things worse. Ryan Mitchell countered by proposing a last-ditch effort to negotiate, though support for his plan was fading. Amid the chaos, Daniel felt lost. He wanted to help, but he didn't know how. Alex tried to reassure him. "We'll figure it out, Danny. We always do." But deep down, neither of them was sure. The galaxy was on the brink of total war, and no one knew how or if it could be stopped. For now, humanity prepared to fight. Factories churned out weapons, and soldiers trained for battle. Yet beneath the surface, cracks were forming. People questioned their leaders, their motives, and themselves. The question lingered in everyone's mind. Had humanity's tolerance finally snapped? And if so, what would come next? The galaxy was falling apart, and humanity stood at the center of the storm. After the destruction of the *Elysium* summit, fear and anger spread like wildfire. The Krillix and their allies issued an ultimatum: surrender all claimed territories, or face annihilation. Earth's leaders had only days to decide. Panic gripped the population, and arguments erupted in every corner of society. Some called for peace, while others demanded war. Humanity was tearing itself apart. Daniel Carter watched the news from his small apartment, feeling more helpless than ever. Images of burning colonies and fleeing families filled the screen. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was all connected to what had happened on Aurora 7. If only someone had listened when he warned about the faulty equipment. If only things had been different. But there was no going back now. The galaxy was on the brink of total war, and Daniel didn't know where he fit in. His brother, Alex, tried to stay focused on his duty as a pilot. Training sessions grew longer and more intense as the United Earth Defense Force, UEDF, prepared for battle. One evening, Alex came home looking exhausted. "They're calling us up soon," he said, dropping onto the couch. "We're heading to the front lines." Daniel stared at him, his stomach twisting. "Do you think we can win?" Alex hesitated. "I don't know. The Krillix are tough, and they've got allies. But we got something to fight for. Earth, our families. That has to count for something, right?" Meanwhile, Emily Dawson worked around the clock to uncover the truth behind the chaos. She had pieced together evidence showing that the sabotage on Elysium wasn't carried out by humans at all. Instead, it pointed to a shadowy group of aliens who wanted war. These manipulators saw humanity as a threat and believed conflict would weaken both humans and the Krillix, leaving room for new powers to rise. Emily knew she had to share her findings with the world, but getting the message out wouldn't be easy. Alien-controlled media outlets twisted her reports, painting humanity as the villain. Her own government dismissed her claims, accusing her of spreading misinformation. Still, she refused to give up. Late one night, she uploaded her investigation to an independent network, hoping it would reach enough people to make a difference. As Emily fought to expose the conspiracy, Ryan Mitchell made one last attempt to stop the war. He traveled to neutral planets, meeting with alien leaders who might still listen. His speeches emphasized the need for dialogue and understanding. "This isn't about revenge," he told the gathering of Valen diplomats. "It's about finding a way forward, together." But not everyone supported his efforts. General Laura Hayes argued that talking was a waste of time. "They've already made up their minds," she said during a heated council meeting. "If we don't strike first, we'll lose everything." Despite the growing divide, ordinary people began to rally behind Ryan's message. Protests broke out across Earth, demanding peace over violence. Families held vigils, lighting candles for those lost in the conflict. Even some soldiers whispered doubts about the war, wondering if they were fighting for the right reasons. As the deadline for the Krillix ultimatum approached, humanity faced its darkest hour. Leaders debated whether to surrender, fight, or try diplomacy one last time. Factories kept producing weapons, and ships prepared for battle. Yet beneath the surface, cracks widened. Trust between nations frayed, and fear gripped the hearts of millions. For Daniel, the choice felt impossible. Should he join the fight, risking his life to protect Earth? Or should he stand with those calling for peace, even if it meant standing against his own brother? He didn't have answers, only questions. And as the days ticked away, the weight of uncertainty pressed down on him like never before. In the end, humanity's decision would shape not just its future, but the fate of the entire galaxy. No one knew what would happen next, but everyone knew the stakes had never been higher. Humanity chose to fight. With the Krillix ultimatum looming, General Laura Hayes launched Operation Retribution, a bold counteroffensive aimed at pushing back the alien forces. The United Earth Defense Force, UEDF, mobilized its fleets, sending ships and soldiers into the heart of contested space. For the first time in decades, humanity was taking the battle to its enemies. Daniel Carter found himself swept up in the chaos. Though he wasn't a soldier, the UEDF needed engineers to repair damaged ships and maintain critical systems. Reluctantly, Daniel signed up, hoping to make amends for his role in the Aurora 7 disaster. He boarded a massive warship called Pegasus *, where the air buzzed with tension. Soldiers checked their weapons, pilots ran simulations, and officers barked orders. It felt like the calm before a storm. The mission began with small victories. UEDF fleets struck key targets, destroying supply lines and crippling enemy outposts. News of these successes reached Earth, boosting morale. People cheered in the streets, waving flags and chanting slogans, but the celebrations were short-lived. The Krillix and their allies regrouped quickly, launching devastating counterattacks. Battles turned brutal, and losses mounted on both sides. Back on Earth, Emily Dawson struggled to keep her investigation alive. Her expose about the sabotage on Elysium had gained traction, but it wasn't enough to stop the war. Alien propaganda continued to twist her words, painting humanity as untrustworthy aggressors. Worse, she received threats from unknown sources, warning her to stay silent. One night, as she walked home from her office, a car sped toward her. She barely dodged out of the way, her heart racing. Someone wanted her silenced, for good. Despite the danger, Emily refused to back down. She teamed up with a group of independent journalists and activists, sharing information and resources. Together, they worked to spread the truth about the shadowy cable manipulating events behind the scenes. Their efforts sparked protests across the galaxy, even among alien populations tired of endless conflict. Slowly, doubts began to creep into the minds of those who had once supported the war. On the front lines, Alex Carter fought bravely alongside his squadron. His skills as a pilot earned him respect, but the toll of battle weighed heavily on him. After one particularly fierce skirmish, he returned to the Pegasus shaken. Dozens of his comrades had been killed, their ships reduced to drifting debris. Daniel saw the pain in his brother's eyes and knew the war was changing him. Meanwhile, Ryan Mitchell's calls for peace gained unexpected support. Alien leaders who had once dismissed him began listening more closely. A faction of Krillix opposed to the war secretly contacted him, revealing that many of their people were suffering under the strain of conflict. They believed the original accident on Aurora 7 had been manipulated to provoke hostilities, and they wanted it to end. Ryan proposed a daring plan. Send emissaries directly to the Krillix homeworld to negotiate peace. It was risky. No human had ever set foot there, but necessary. Volunteers were needed, and Daniel stepped forward. He couldn't sit idly by while others risked everything. Joining him were Sarah Bennett, a linguist fluent in Krillix communication, and Marcus Cole, a former soldier turned pacifist. Together, they prepared for the journey of a lifetime. As their ship left Earth's orbit, Daniel looked back at the blue planet below. He thought about all the lives depending on this mission. If they failed, the war would rage on, consuming countless worlds. But if they succeeded, they might just bring hope to a broken galaxy. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with danger and doubt. Yet for the first time in months, Daniel felt a flicker of purpose. Humanity had chosen to fight, but perhaps it wasn't too late to seek another path. Somewhere between the stars, a fragile chance for peace still lingered. The journey to the Krillix homeworld was anything but smooth. Daniel Carter, Sarah Bennett, and Marcus Cole faced constant danger as their small ship navigated through hostile territory. Alien patrols roamed the stars, hunting for any sign of human activity. More than once, the trio had to hide in asteroid fields or disable their engines to avoid detection. Each close call left them more tense than the last. As they traveled, Sarah worked tirelessly to prepare for communication with the Krillix. She spent hours practicing their clicking language, reviewing recordings, and studying their culture. "We need to show respect," she told the others. "If we offend them, this mission is over before it starts." Marcus, ever the skeptic, wasn't convinced it would work. "Respect. They've been bombing our colonies. You think they care about manners?" he muttered one evening as they ate cold rations in the cramped ship's galley. "It's not about what they've done," Sarah replied calmly. "It's about finding common ground. If we don't try, we lose everything." Daniel stayed quiet during these conversations. He didn't know what to believe anymore. Part of him wanted to trust Sarah's optimism, but another part feared they were walking into a trap. Still, he clung to the hope that their mission could make a difference. When they finally reached the Krillix homeworld, they were shocked by what they saw. The planet, once thriving with towering hives and bustling cities, was scared by internal conflict. Fires burned across vast stretches of land, and smoke choked the skies. It seemed the war had fractured the Krillix as much as it had humanity. A rebel faction of Krillix met them secretly, guiding their ship to a hidden underground base. The leader of the group, a tall insectoid named Vrax, greeted them cautiously. Through Sarah's translation, Vrax explained that many Krillix opposed the war but were powerless against the ruling hive mind. The accident on Aurora 7 was no accident. Vrax said, "It was manipulated to turn us against you. We have proof." The evidence was damning. Recordings showed agents from a shadowy cable, made up of rogue aliens and corrupt humans, sabotaging the mining equipment. Their goal had been simple: spark a galactic war to weaken both sides and allow them to seize power. Daniel felt sick as he realized how deeply humanity had been used. Vrax offered an alliance. Together, they could expose the truth and end the war. But there was a catch. The emissaries would have to return to Earth and rally support for a joint effort against the conspirators. It wouldn't be easy. Trust between humans and aliens was nearly non-existent. As they prepared to leave, Daniel couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. For the first time, he saw a way out of the endless cycle of violence. But he also knew the hardest part lay ahead. Convincing humanity to team up with the Krillix would take more than evidence. It would take courage and faith in something greater than fear. Back on Earth, Emily Dawson continued her fight. Her network of allies grew stronger, spreading the truth about the cable's manipulation. Protests erupted across alien worlds too, demanding an end to the bloodshed. Slowly, cracks began to form in the walls of hatred separating species. Yet the war still raged. Ships clashed in space, and lives were lost every day. Time was running out. If Daniel and his team failed to unite humanity and the Krillix, the galaxy would descend into chaos, and no one would emerge unscathed. When Daniel Carter and his team returned to Earth, they brought with them not only evidence of the conspiracy but also a fragile promise of peace from the Krillix rebels. The journey home had been just as perilous as the trip to the alien homeworld, but now they faced an even greater challenge: convincing humanity to trust their former enemies. The moment they landed, soldiers surrounded their ship. News of their mission had leaked, and many viewed them as traitors for working with the Krillix. It took hours of heated arguments before General Laura Hayes agreed to hear them out. In a secure bunker beneath Earth's capital city, Daniel, Sarah, and Marcus presented their findings. Sarah played recordings of Vrax explaining the sabotage on Aurora 7 and shared documents proving the existence of the shadowy kibble. The room fell silent as the weight of the revelation sank in. "This changes everything," Ryan Mitchell said, breaking the silence. He had joined the meeting after hearing about the mission. "If we expose this conspiracy, we can end the war." But General Hayes remained skeptical. "Even if this is true, how do we know the Krillix won't turn on us once they've used us to take down their rivals?" she asked sharply. "They're already turning on each other," Sarah replied calmly. "That's why the rebels reached out to us. They need our help to stop the hive mind and the cable pulling its strings. This isn't just about saving ourselves. It's about saving them too." After much debate, Earth's leaders reluctantly agreed to work with the Krillix rebels. A joint task force was formed, combining human and alien forces to dismantle the conspiracy. Daniel volunteered to stay involved, determined to see the mission through. Alex, however, struggled with the decision. As a pilot, he had fought against the Krillix for months, and trusting them felt impossible. But seeing his brother's conviction gave him pause. Meanwhile, Emily Dawson's efforts reached a tipping point. Her network of journalists and activists succeeded in broadcasting the truth across the galaxy. Alien populations, weary of the war, began questioning their leaders' motives. Protests erupted on neutral planets, demanding accountability from both sides. Even some Zorathians, humanity's fiercest opponents, started to withdraw support for the conflict. As alliances shifted, the conspirators struck back. Assassins targeted key figures, including Emily. She narrowly escaped an attack when her apartment was firebombed. Shaken but alive, she went into hiding, continuing her work remotely. Her courage inspired others to speak out, further eroding the cabal's influence. The final showdown came at a massive space station controlled by the conspirators. Human and Krillix forces launched a coordinated assault, fighting side by side for the first time. The battle was chaotic and brutal, with losses on both sides. But slowly, the combined fleet pushed forward, breaching the station's defenses. Inside, Daniel and Marcus led a small team to capture the cable's leaders. They moved cautiously through dimly lit corridors, encountering resistance at every turn. When they finally cornered the masterminds, a mix of humans and aliens, they found them arguing over who would take control after the war ended. The sight disgusted Daniel. These were the people responsible for so much suffering, driven only by greed and power. With the conspirators arrested and their plans exposed, the tide of the war began to turn. The Krillix hive mind, weakened by internal rebellion, agreed to negotiate peace. Humanity, battered but hopeful, prepared to rebuild what had been lost. For Daniel, the victory was bittersweet. So many lives had been sacrificed, and scars would remain for generations. But as he looked around at the diverse group of humans and aliens working together, he allowed himself a small sense of pride. Perhaps, he thought, this could be the start of something new, something better. The war ended with a historic agreement signed aboard a neutral Valen vessel. Humanity and the Krillix, once bitter enemies, pledged to work together to heal the wounds of the past. The treaty included promises to share resources fairly, protect each other's territories, and create a council where all species could have a voice. It wasn't perfect. Many doubted it would last, but it was a start. Daniel Carter returned to Earth feeling changed. He had seen the worst of humanity and the best of it too. The guilt over Aurora 7 still lingered, but he found solace in knowing he played a part in ending the conflict. Together with Sarah Bennett and Marcus Cole, he began working on programs to foster understanding between humans and aliens. They organized cultural exchanges, bringing people from different species together to learn about each other's worlds. Slowly, trust began to grow. Emily Dawson emerged from hiding after the conspiracy was dismantled. Her bravery made her a symbol of hope across the galaxy. She used her platform to advocate for transparency and unity, urging leaders to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. Though threats against her never fully disappeared, she refused to be silenced. "The truth is our strongest weapon," she often said during interviews. "We can't build peace without it." Alex Carter, Daniel's brother, struggled to adjust to life after the war. He had fought hard and lost friends along the way. For months, he wrestled with anger and grief, unsure how to move forward. But seeing Daniel's dedication to peace inspired him to try. He joined a program that paired human veterans with alien counterparts, helping them heal together. Over time, he formed bonds with former foes, finding common ground in shared pain and resilience. Ryan Mitchell's efforts earned him widespread respect. Once dismissed as naive, he was now celebrated as a visionary who had helped save the galaxy from destruction. Elected as Earth's global leader, he pushed for reforms to ensure accountability and fairness. Under his guidance, Earth became a beacon of cooperation, proving that even deeply divided societies could find unity when faced with a greater purpose. General Laura Hayes stepped down from her position, acknowledging that her focus on warfare had nearly cost humanity everything. She retired quietly, leaving behind a legacy of both strength and regret. Her story served as a reminder of the dangers of letting fear dictate action. As the galaxy rebuilt, signs of progress emerged everywhere. Humans and aliens worked side by side to restore damaged planets and rebuild broken communities. Schools taught lessons about the war, emphasizing the importance of empathy and cooperation. Even the Zorathians, long considered humanity's greatest adversaries, sent envoys to participate in the new Interstellar Council. But scars remained. Colonies devastated by the war were slow to recover, and some families never forgave the losses they endured. Yet amid the pain, there was also hope. People dreamed of a future where species could coexist without fear or hatred. For Daniel, the journey had been long and difficult, but it gave him a sense of purpose. He often thought back to the moment on Aurora 7 when everything seemed to fall apart. That tragedy had sparked a chain reaction leading to war, but it had also forced humanity to confront its flaws and strive for something better. No one would ever forget the moment humanity's tolerance finally snapped. It had brought the galaxy to the brink of ruin, but it had also shown what could be achieved when people chose to rise above their differences. As Daniel looked up at the stars one night, he felt a quiet optimism. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in years, the future didn't seem so dark.